today while I'm not here, y'all are going to be working on your Chapter 1, Quiz 1 corrections. Miss Felicia just passed those back to you, and I need to make sure that you have a piece of notebook paper and a pencil on your desk because all corrections must be done on a separate sheet of notebook paper stapled to the back of your assignment and turned in for you to get credit. Okay, so it has to be on notebook paper, has to be nice and neat, has to be done in pencil, and this is the way that it should look. So I'm going to go over that here real quick for you. On your notebook paper, you must have your name in the corner. You must have today's date, 9/4/2018, right underneath that. And then over in the corner, make sure you put your number. About half of you didn't put your number on your quiz. I didn't take points off for that, but I did reward those of you who did because you need to know what your expectations are in this class, and I expect you to label your paper correctly. So those of you who put your number in the top corner of your paper, I went ahead and gave you a +3 points on your quiz. So you're welcome. That's not always going to happen, but I need to make sure that you know what is expected of you, and I need to have that number on that paper. Okay, so after you have that, on the top, you need to have Chapter 1, Quiz 1 corrections, and I'm okay with you abbreviating that as CH1Q1 for Chapter 1, Quiz 1, but then it needs to say corrections. When you do corrections for me, you must write the problem out, all the way out one time, and then do the work and the answer 3 times each. Now, the instructions are part of your question. So for instance, if I missed number 1, I need to write on my paper, express each fraction or mixed number as a decimal. Now, since those directions go for 1, 2, 3, and 4, if I miss number 1 and number 3, you do not have to write this for both of those. I'm okay. It's not a penmanship class. This isn't a writing class. I just need to know what the question was asking you when it goes back for corrections. So write those directions one time, and then, for instance, if I miss number 1, 2/5 was the question, and I need to say that it's equal to 0.4. Now, to show your work, since we can do those in the calculator, you just hit Control Divide, put in 2/5 into your calculator, and then hit Control Enter, and it gives you 0.4. So to show my work, I push what I put in the calculator, Control Divide, show you that it looks like 2/5 as a fraction. I hit Control Enter, and it gave me 0.4. Now I have to do that part 3 times in order to get full credit for my corrections. So I wrote my question out once. 2/5 is equal to 0.4. Control Divide 2/5. Control Enter 0.4. That's 1. 2/5 equals 0.4. Control Divide 2/5. Control Enter 0.4. That's 2. 2/5 equals 0.4. Control Divide 2/5. Control Enter 0.4. That's 3. And now you will get half the credit back for that. So that's what number 1 looks like. And that's what I need your papers to look like as you turn them in. Working out number 2. Number 2 is 7/11. If I were to put that into my calculator, I'm going to say Control Divide. I get a box that looks like a fraction set up for me. I make it look exactly like that calculator, like that problem does on my paper, and I hit Control Enter. When I do that, I get something that looks like this, 0.63636364, something along those lines. This shows me that this is a repeating decimal that just rounded, so I'm going to say that this answer is 0.63 repeating. And that is my final answer. So when I go back over here, I'm going to do 0.63 with the repeating bar over the 6 and the 3. If you write this out, it is wrong. You must say that this is 6.3 repeating. The only reason it changed to a 4 here is because your calculator rounded for you. Okay? Number 3, I have -2 and 1/4. If you remember, I cannot put mixed numbers into my calculator. I can only do the fractions itself. So what I do is I take this -2, and if it's -2 in the mixed number, it's going to be -2 in my answer. Make sure you keep that negative 2 decimal, and then I'm going to say control divide for 1/4 is equal to 0.25, and so this part right here goes right here. So my final answer is negative 2.25. Do not forget, if you miss one of these, you must do it 3 times on your work. So if you want to skip down right now so you can go back and redo them later, that's fine. So you can keep up. But make sure that if you miss it, you must do it 3 times each. If you did not miss it, you don't have to correct it. Okay, you only have to do the corrections for the ones that you missed. Okay. And then lastly, number 4 is 7/9. For those of us who remember that shortcut trick for when we have something over 9, that tells me there's going to be a repeated decimal. But if I forgot that, I would just say control divide in my calculator, 7/9, control enter, and it gives me 0.77778. That 8 is just because my calculator rounded for me. This is wrong. This needs to be 0.7 repeating. 0.7 repeating. Okay, once again, 3 times to get credit. Now, if you miss number 5, 6, or 7, you must copy down this set of instructions on your notebook paper before you start working the next one. Okay? Starting with number 5, I have negative 0.75. They want us to express each decimal as a fraction or a mixed number. Remember, you always need to simplify. So that means simplify your fractions if you can, and do not leave them as an improper fraction. So, negative 0.75, if my decimal is negative, my fraction is negative. 0.75 is 75 hundredths. You can type that directly into your calculator, and it will tell you that it is equal to 3/4. Okay, you can even put the negative here, and the negative will come out into your calculator. Okay, so simplified, it is negative 3/4. If you forgot your place value, there are 1, 2 digits behind that decimal, so there are 1, 2 zeros in my denominator. Number 6 is 20.08. 20 is my whole number, so in my problem here, my whole number just goes right back over. Now I just need to turn this 0.08 into a fraction. There are 1, 2 digits behind there, so 1, 2 zeros in my denominator. 8 is my numerator. When I put 8 over 100 into the calculator, I get 2/25. So I have to take this and add it back into my whole number, so now I have a mixed number of 20 2/5. Some of you put 502 over 25. Originally I counted that wrong, but going back and looking at the instructions, it says express each decimal as a fraction or a mixed number. It doesn't necessarily say that you have to turn improper fractions to a mixed number. I want you to know that for the rest of 8th grade, I'm going to require you to do that. I went ahead and gave you credit for it today, but what I need to see on your paper is a correction for that. So I need to see that 502 over 25 is equal to 20 2/5. So go ahead, and I know that you should have a purple +7 on your paper if I went ahead and gave you credit back for that. But I need you to go ahead and do those corrections. I gave you full credit back instead of half credit, but I need to see where you turn that improper fraction into a mixed number. All right, and number 7. Number 7 is 0.38, but we have the repeating bar over the 3 and the 8. There is no way for me to put repeating bars into my calculator, so we have to remember that rule. The rule for repeating is using the 9s, so however many digits repeat, we use that many 9s. So number 7 says 0.38 repeating. There's 2 numbers repeating, so there's 1, 2 9s in my denominator. And then I'm going to put that 38 up there. 38 over 99 is in its simplest form You can check that out by putting it into your calculator. And so when I say, when numbers repeat, put it over 9. You need a 9 for each digit. For example, since 38 is repeating, there are 2 digits repeating, so I need 2 9s in my denominator. If you look back at number 4, you had 7 over 9. The 7 was repeating, 7, 7, 7, 7. There was only 1 digit that repeated, so you only put 1 9 in your denominator. That was the hint for that. Okay? Moving on to 8 and 9. Once again, you need to write those instructions down if you missed either of those. It says to express each expression using exponents. It doesn't ask you to evaluate it. There shouldn't be a final answer on there at all. You should just have taken your long form and rewritten it using your exponents. So number 8 said 2 times D times 5 times D times D times 5. Well, the first thing I come to is a 2. There are no more 2's. The next thing I come to is a D. I have 1, 2, 3 D's. So times D to the 3rd power. The next thing I come to is a 5. There are 1, 2 5's. So my exponent for the 5 is a 2. 2 times D to the 3rd power times 5 to the 2nd power. That is my final answer. You can write them in a different order. You could say 2 times 5 squared times D to the 3rd power to keep your numbers together and your letters at the end. That's fine. The commutative property allows you to change them in the order that they appear. But the 2 needs to have either not an exponent at all, or you could have that imaginary 1 there, and then D to the 3rd power and 5 to the 2nd power. Number 9. I have 1/4 times 1/4 times 1/4. A lot of you got points taken off because you didn't keep your fraction in the parentheses. If it's given to you in parentheses, put it in parentheses. 1/4 to the 3rd power. If you don't put it in parentheses, the 3 only goes to the 1. I need it to go to the whole fraction. Remember, fractions and negative numbers both have to be put inside of parentheses. Numbers 10, 11, and 12 say to evaluate each expression. Some of y'all went above and beyond and showed me it in long form and evaluated. That's great. But in all honesty, all you have to do for this problem is give me the value. So you can just simply plug it into your calculator to get the answer. Number 10 says 3 to the 4th power minus 5 squared. Put that into your calculator by putting 3, the up arrow gives you the little box up here, 4, minus 5, the little up arrow, and put it in a 2. Make sure right here, after that 4, that you arrow back down to keep that cursor so you're not staying in your exponents the whole time. But when you do that, your calculator, it should look just like it looked in your problem. Make sure this minus 5 to the 2nd power isn't written up here. Make sure that you scroll down out of your exponents, and you just simply push enter, and you get 56. Number 11 says negative 2 to the 3rd power plus 5 squared. It is very important that you keep this negative 2 inside of the parentheses. Type it in to look exactly like this. So I would say parentheses, negative 2, up arrow, gives me that 3, plus 5, up arrow, and I can put in that 2. Making sure once again that I've arrowed down here to not stay in my exponents. And when I do that, I get 17. Just a reminder, the X squared button on the corner of right next to the up arrow also gives you the squared when it's just the 2. You do have to use the up arrow when there are other exponents, but the 2, the squared, does have its own button. Okay? And then number 12 Number 12 is negative 8 to the 4th power. That's like multiplying negative 8 times itself 4 times. So negative 8 times negative 8 times negative 8 times negative 8. Or you can simply just put negative 8 to the 4th power into your calculator, and that will get you positive 4,096. Numbers 13 and 14 ask you to evaluate and show your work. So what I need to see is where you've plugged those numbers in, because it gave it to you as an algebraic expression, where r to the 3rd power minus s, if r is equal to 5 and s is equal to 4. So when I plug that in, it should look like 5 to the 3rd power minus 4. When I plug that into my calculator to get a final evaluation, the single value, you cannot stop right here. You have to find that value. Plug that in and you get 121. Remember, it's always best practice to plug things in inside of parentheses. Since these weren't negatives or fractions, it doesn't necessarily matter, but it is a good practice to get into. And then my final answer was the 121. Okay. Lastly, number 14 is parentheses x to the 5th power minus y squared, close parentheses, plus x to the 3rd power. It told me that x is 2 and y is 8. So I'm going to go ahead and plug those in. Open parentheses like they show. I'm plugging in a 2 here to the 5th power, minus I'm plugging in an 8 here, squared, plus I'm plugging in another 2 here for x to the 3rd power. Once I type this into my calculator and hit enter, I should get a negative 24. Okay. Make sure your work is shown. Make sure you do them 3 times each. Make sure you have the proper heading and staple it to the back of your original assignment. This is due tomorrow.